Hello, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumadi once again, and we are studying the Hebrew verbs. And this will be an overview of the Hebrew verbs part 2. In the previous study, we looked at the root shin mem resh, from which we said you can generate so many different kinds of verbal forms based on various structural rules. Right, we saw the conjugations and all that stuff. So this is what we saw, this table. There are about 11 Hebrew conjugations and 7 Hebrew verbal stems. And of course, each of them will have different PGN. I'll come to the PGN, person, gender, number, etc. And when we could generate verbal forms out of that root. Okay. Now, let's take the shin mem resh now and try to understand what are these stems. What are these stems really? Why are there so many stems? And why do we have all this complexity in the within the Hebrew verbal framework? Okay, so let's understand this one. So, what is kal? Kal means simple, active. It's a fairly straightforward verb in the active. Active voice. Okay, active voice. So the one opposite on the far end. So this is like a menorah, like, 7-branched menorah. That's a nice structure. So you can say opposite sides, corresponding opposite sides will have, same simple. So this is simple and that is simple, but this is active and that one is passive. So active would be shamar, and passive would be nishmar. Okay, right. We'll look at the meanings as well shortly. What are the meanings of it? We'll see. Intensive active means this verb is not simple, but it is a bit intensive. And here it is piel shimmer. We will say, we don't say shamar. If you say shimmer, if you note it, so the whole difference is, most of the differences are basically down to the vowels. Sometimes some additional letters will be added, but they are primarily due to the difference in vowels. PL is shimmer. Hifl is a causative. Now these three are active. Those three are passive. Nifal, poal, hofal are passive. Kal, PL, hifl are active. And the one in the center called hithpael is reflexive. So what does it mean? It means that in the first three, the action is taken by the subject upon someone else. In the last three passive ones, the action is taken upon, that is in the passive sense, upon the subject. And, not subject, you probably call them object, don't you? Right. So here this is in the intensive reflexive then, in the middle one, it's a reflexive. Reflexive meaning you do it to yourself, right? So there are certain verbs, which you do it. There are some examples in the Hebrew Bible where, they shall bless themselves, although they are translated as they will be blessed. But actually, there are verbs in hithpael, reflexive. All nations shall bless themselves in thee, in Abraham. Bless themselves. So the blessing themselves is a reflexive action. Doing things to oneself. Okay. This is doing things to others. This is getting things done upon oneself. This is a passive. Okay. Simple, intensive, causative. This is causative hofal. So hofal and hefil, etc. So that's the structure as far as the stems are concerned. Now, let's take these 7 stems. I've put them here. The order in which these things occur and the order in which here I have indicated is not the same, because I created this order to show this sort of a V structure here, like a menorah, because the corresponding branches, the last one and the first one, the second one and the second last one, etc., they are related. But generally, most of the conjugation tables, they have this sort of an order. Kal nifal, that is kal and its passive, pl and its passive, which is pual, Hifil and its passive is hofal, and finally reflexive. That's the way they do it. Okay, so now if you take the Katal 3MS, this is 3 masculine singular, these 7 words are shown. I'll show you the meaning of these 7 words. Now, Shamar in the Kal, Shamar is in the Kal. It means he kept. Why say 3MS, third person masculine singular, that is not I would be first person, you would be second person, he would be third person singular, and third person masculine singular. She would be third person feminine singular. So he kept, or he guarded, or he watched, or he preserved. These are 4 different meanings you could have for the root shamar. So he kept is what the meaning is for shamar. Nishmar means he was kept, he was guarded, he was watched over, he was preserved in the passive. Nishmar, that's nifal. PL is shimer. Here he kept the watch over, he guarded carefully, he observed it diligently. You can see the intensity here. Okay, so this is an intensive. Pual again is intensive in the passive. Shumar, he was carefully kept, closely watched over, etc. Hifil is hishmir. He caused to keep. So here the subject is not keeping directly, but causing someone else or something else to do it. Okay, so it's a causal thing, causative. He made to watch over, he had someone to guard, etc. Whereas hofal again is the same thing, causal one, okay, but in the passive. He was caused to be kept, he was made to watch over, etc. And finally, hitpa el would be reflexive, and therefore he guarded himself. He watched out for himself. He took heed, because these are like reflexive. So these are the meanings of this root shamar, shin mem resh, when they are inflected like this in these 7 stems. 7 stems, mind you, we are talking about these 7 stems, but all of them are in the Katal. So I'm taking the first line here in the Katal, okay? So these are all in the Katal, in the 3MS for all the 7 stems. Now if you look at slightly differently, now let us go over the vertical now. Here we have different things, the Katal, Yiktol, Vayiktol, etc. So what are these? What is the meaning of it? Katal would be completed action. That is perfect tense. These are not tenses. There's been a massive amount of study on Hebrew verbs, whether, there are 3 things. One is tense, and the second is aspect, and the third is mode. So tense, aspect, mode. People have come up with different frameworks to explain the Hebrew verbs using these 3 parameters, and there are rival theories even right now. But if you throw out all the complexity and if you want to start understanding them simply, the simplest understanding is the Katal. The first one is it's a perfect, meaning it is a completed action. So I ate, I ran. So the action is over, done. It is finished. It's an action that is completed. So that's the one that's Katal. If the action is incomplete, meaning it is either in progress or it is yet to start, then we call it imperfect, and that is called yiktol. Okay. Now once we understand these 2, the rest of them are all easy. Now vayiktol and vekatal are exactly similar to the previous ones. So for example, you can see vayiktol is, in terms of the meaning, it's just like perfect. However, its morphology or its form, it looks like yiktol, but with a vav conjunction in the front. And so it looks like yiktol, but it has a meaning of the katal, with an addition of and in the beginning. Similarly, vekatal, with an addition of vav in the beginning, it looks like katal, that's the perfect, but actually it is imperfect. So essentially, vayiktol and vekatal, for now, if you want, for basic understanding, without getting into the nuances. And this applies well for most cases. So you can treat Vaiktol as perfect and Vekatal as imperfect with a conjunction. So they are pretty much work like Kal and Yiktol, are perfect and imperfect. So that explains the 4 categories. Cohortive, imperative and gessive, they all belong to the same category in the sense that they are all volitional. It's like a command, or it is like a wish or a command. So the cohortive is a first person wish, that is wishing because somebody wishes to themselves. I wish I had done something like this, right? So cohortive would be always in the first person. And imperative would be always in the second person. So there's no second person, cohortive, etc. Imperative is always third person. Gessive, again, is usually third person most of the times, but sometimes you may have the second person as well in gessive. Okay. So these are all volitional, meaning they are either wishes or commands. Mild command. This is gessive or strong wish. Okay. For example, in the gessive, let there be light. That's a gessive. Yahi or. Vayahi or. So yahi is yod he yod. Yahi or in Genesis 1:3. That's gessive. Infinitive means like you inflect the verb in such a way that it becomes like an adverb or a verbal noun. And it has 2 types, which is absolute and construct. I think we will look into them in some of the videos, but just be aware there are 2 infinitives. They act like verbal nouns. So they are verbs, but basically sometimes function like nouns or sometimes as adverbs. Participles, again, like they are like the continuing things like running and eating, etc. Like in English, participles, we have both active and passive. And they are like verbal adjectives. Okay, so these are the conjugations. All of these roots can be conjugated in these ways. Now, I said previously in the previous video that for these first four, Katal, Yiktol, Vaiktol, and Vekatal, because at the end of the day, all these 4 are either perfect or imperfect, can be conjugated in 10 different ways for each combination, right? Yiktol PL combination is not just 1 but 10 because of the person gender number. There are 3 persons, 2 genders and 2 numbers. It should be totally 3 times 2 times 2 should be 12. Why have we got 10? Because for the first person, there is no distinction between masculine and feminine. Therefore, both for singular and plural, you have got only 1 instead of 2. So you deduct 2 out of the 12 and you get 10. So 10 conjugations for Yiktol PL. Now, or for that matter, any combination. So in total, you get 280. We talked about it last time. And so for the Katal, these are the in the Kal, these are the person, gender, number conjugations. Shamar, Shamra, Shamarth, Shamartha, Shamarth, Shamrethi, Shamarthi. Sorry, I couldn't see that properly. Should have worn glasses. Shamarthi, Shamru, Shamru, Shamartem, Shamarten, Shamarnu. So like that we can pronounce all of these. This one, if you look at Hit Shamarthi, Hit Shamarthi. Okay, right. Now, the ones that are highlighted, I will give you the meaning. In the Katal conjugation, Kal stem, that is, go back, Katal conjugation. Katal conjugation and Kal stem. Here, this one, I said there are 10 conjugations possible in that intersection, that one, because of the person, gender, number, right? So these are the 10 in the Katal and Kal, all PGN, mean all person, gender, number. So third person masculine singular, third person feminine singular, second person masculine singular, second person feminine singular, etc. 1 CS is one first person common singular. And these are P is plural. Okay. Shamar means he kept. This is Shamra means she kept. Shamartha means you kept. You is the masculine singular. Shamarth means you kept. In English it's the same, but in Hebrew it is different because of the feminine. Shamarti means I kept. Shamru, they kept. That is plural, they. Shamru, again, they kept. The distinction between the gender is missing here in English, but of course even in Hebrew it is missing in this particular case. And Shamartem, you guys kept, or ye. And that's why in the King James Bible you have the singular would be thou or thee, etc. Whereas for the plural it will be you, ye, ye, right? Shamarten, that is feminine, and shamarnu, which is we kept, which is a common gender. Okay, so this is how the meaning changes for the person, gender, number. So what about the other things? We said the katal, yiktol, vaiktol, vekatal, all four together would be like 4 times 7 times 10, which is 280. And I showed you those 280 quickly last time in the previous video. What about cohative? How many are possible? So in any combination, a cohative and PL, cohative kala, whatever, if you take an intersection between these two dimensions, only 2 conjugations are possible here because it's always in the first person and always in the common. Therefore, it's either singular or plural. That's it. Only 2 are possible. If you come to imperative, it's always in the second person and it is either masculine or feminine. And it's either singular or plural. So 2 times 2, you have 4 conjugations possible. For gessive, it is either second person or third person. Mostly third person. It is supposed to be third person, sometimes second person. Masculine and feminine, singular and plural. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 conjugations for gessive. Okay. And infinitives, 2 infinitives. For each of the infinitive, well, I say put 1, but basically for each of the infinitives, there's only 1 conjugation possible. There is no person, gender, number for the infinitive. No person, gender, number. And finally, for the participle, for each participle, you have masculine, feminine, singular, plural. Note that there is no first, second, third person. Person is missing in this. Instead, there is another dimension, which is either our absolute, construct, or determined. We'll talk about them when we actually have a separate video on the participles, etc. But these are the dimensions, and so that makes 2 times 2 times 3. Yeah, it should be 12, I think. I don't know why I have 8 here. Anyway, so that's how you calculate the number of possibilities. So literally, each verb can be conjugated in so many different ways in Hebrew. And that is what really makes it difficult. I hope you have not been overwhelmed with the content. Please do like the video and do subscribe and click the bell icon. And please do make a comment below. And I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.